This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
A 72-hour curfew has been lifted in the Iraqi capital, although rocket attacks are still being heard across Baghdad. Residents began going about their daily routine for the first time in days after the Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr called on his gunmen to stand down. James Bays has more from Baghdad.
In Sadr city in Baghdad, they were burying their dead after 6 days of fighting across Iraq, which claimed over 500 lives. Fighting, which following Muqtada al-Sadr's order, has now reduced dramatically. In this neighborhood of the capital, where the 35-year-old cleric has his strongest support, there were signs everywhere of the battles that have been fought in recent days, but Muqtada al-Sadr's Army fighters were keeping a relatively low profile. Local residents expressed relief that the fighting was over for now.
Muqtada al-Sadr's statement of ending armed incidents is marvelous. All armed incidents have finished. No more clashes.
There have been a number of mortars fired into the green zone, but none of the clashes of recent days. It shows the strength of Muqtada al-Sadr. When his men were fighting, they pledged their loyalty to him. Now he's ordered a ceasefire. They have disappeared from the streets. Relative normality is beginning to return to Baghdad, where in most parts of the city, curfew restrictions have now been lifted. The streets are quieter than normal. People remain nervous.
We want to live, whatever happens between the government and others. We are simple people, and we just want to live.
We were depressed and had a feeling of resentment because of the abnormal condition in the country. We had bombings and killings. Any casualty is a loss for Iraq.
In Basra too, it's been relatively quiet on the streets. The Iraqi Prime Minister says his military campaign continues, but he's not deliberately targeting Muqtada al-Sadr's men.
Now, we have a breathing space to rechannel our efforts towards the rebuilding of Iraq and providing basic services to citizens. We can say the security plan we brought here has not started yet. The recent battles were unforeseen. The security plan is still in place to stop all forms of terrorist and criminal activities or organized crime bands, devouring the innocent civilians. All armed groups refusing to lay down arms will remain our target.
The situation on the streets of Basra so different from 24 hours earlier. Little sign of militiamen, just Iraqi army patrols, and for now the city remains relatively quiet, although still extremely tense. James Bays, Al Jazeera, Baghdad.
Iraq wakes up this morning to shake off the debris of the past few days. The curfew imposed on the two cities of Baghdad and Basra have been lifted and life returned to normal, but the humanitarian condition has degenerated. In Basra alone, the death toll from Operation Night's Charge, launched by the government, exceeded 200 deaths. Ismat Tarabe reports.
The fog looming over the capital of Baghdad did not obstruct visibility. The curfew was lifted and life returned to the city. Some citizens started cleaning the debris of the past 6 days, while others returned to their pursuit of making a living that has been shattered by the clashes between the Iraqi forces and the Mahdi Army militia.
It affected our livelihood. A person who is a day laborer and has been sitting without work for 4 days. What is his family to do, waiting and begging for its daily bread?
This tragedy is the same in Basra, where the state of calm is more alert and more painful. The quiet of the city is only interrupted by the calls of the mourners, saying goodbye to more than 200 people. Killed during the clashes that left a dangerous and deteriorating human condition behind.
There is no gas and no benzene for the cars. What if a person is hurt or needs a hospital? Yesterday, a woman was about to give birth, and I had to drive her to the hospital. Everything is very difficult under these conditions.
The difficulty might ease up as armed presence and its repercussions disappear from Iraqi streets. The call for calm by the Shiite leader Muqtada Sadr made calm a reality overnight. The Iraqi government promised to forgive anyone who lays down his weapons, but this promise has not yet been heeded. The Iraqi forces' Operation Knight's Charge is still ongoing, and many Iraqis are suspicious about its targets.
The fighting between the Mahdi army militia and the government forces subsided, but the Green Zone in Baghdad is again under fire. This summarizes the condition in one of the most heavily fortified areas in Iraq. Today's attacks injured 5 people, although the U.S. Army announced the death of 41 people whom they called criminals. They were in an area for launching mortar shells and rockets directed at the Green Zone and other neighborhoods in the Iraqi capital.
After the 20th Arab Summit in Damascus, Lebanon is in a state of anticipation and anxiety. Will Amr Moussa return soon? Will his initiative for electing a president succeed? Until now, the situation has been suspended between both sides of the conflict. More details from Adnan Ghanoush.
It was the most debated summit of all previous Arab summits. The Damascus summit, which ended without any tensions or explosions regarding differences over difficult files, like the Lebanese file, ended with polite words about its success, and many questions about what it actually achieved in facing the next phase. Lebanon was the most felt absence at the summit. Its crisis was not part of the closed session because it had boycotted the summit. The Arab summit's final statement held firm to the Arab initiative as the solution to Lebanon's current crisis.
Before the summit, it was possible to rely on the action of the General Secretary of the Arab League. Now, Moussa's mission is to guarantee Syrian and Saudi agreement and translate this into joint efforts and cooperation aimed at implementing the Arab initiative in Lebanon.
The Lebanese public, which apprehensively kept up with the events of the Damascus summit, was not surprised by the outcome of the summit due to the differences that existed before it, particularly relating to the Lebanese situation and the lack of implementation of the Arab initiative.
I hope that the crisis gets resolved, but without intervention from Western nations, and honestly, without intervention by America. That's it. It is better for an Arab to intervene rather than an American.
The summit was in disunity and was not right.
God willing, we hope that there is a solution.
Awaiting the possible outcomes of the Arab Summit for Lebanon, there does not appear to be signs that the Arab League's Secretary General, Amr Moussa, will return to Beirut anytime soon. This raises questions about whether the communications regarding Lebanon need to be conducted outside the country for any future action on Beirut to succeed. According to official Lebanese sources, it appears that efforts in the next phase will focus on inviting the Arab foreign ministers to a meeting to discuss the Lebanese crisis, and the official Lebanese administrations have begun to study the possibility of whether this invitation will practically translate into a way of getting out of the current crisis.
One year after the continued negotiations between Morocco and the Polisario Front, there remains different opinions about this rich and strategic area, the Western Sahara. Some have fears that the problem may get complicated and that a war may erupt in the region. Others reiterate that a solution can only be reached through direct negotiations between Morocco and Algeria.
العيون الداخلة مدينتان رئيسيتان في الصحراء الغربية تعيشان دون
Leun and Dekla, two major cities in the Western Sahara, live in anticipation of the ongoing negotiations between Morocco and the Polisario Front about the region's future. Peace talks usually get postponed and resume when new developments happen. This has a direct effect on people's perspectives here, especially the educated and those who have been following the conflict.
أو المتابعة لمسار القضية.
The conflict is very complicated and hard to resolve, creating anxiety among some that war may erupt, especially when considering that the Polisario had threatened to return to the use of weapons. Considering the polarization in the region, this threat is too great and can't be ignored, and diplomatic efforts must be exerted in order to avoid it. While looking forward at these vast areas along the coast, one wonders what is the solution after 1 year of negotiations that failed to produce results. Algeria is an influential player, but some believe that its role is counterproductive. What is the future of the Western Sahara? What role can the international community play to achieve progress in the conflict, which has been getting more complicated day after day?
يمكن أن يحدد الوجهة المقبلة التي يتعمق تعقيدها يوما بعد يوم. يرى البعض أن تعقد أزمة الصحراء حاليا مرده عدم الثقة بين المغرب والبوليساريو.
Some believe that the complicated situation in the Western Sahara is due to the lack of confidence between Morocco and the Polisario. How accurate is this claim? What fuels the lack of confidence between the two sides? Is it regional intervention or Western and European intervention? We will discuss this important point with Atay Al-Asawi, an expert on African affairs.
انعدام الثقة بين المغرب والجزائر وبين جبهة البوليساريو والمغرب ليس.
The lack of confidence between Morocco and Algeria and between the Polisario Front and Morocco is not the only reason behind the difficulty in resolving the Western Sahara conflict. There are other factors. Most of the African countries have lack of confidence in one another, and this leads to the failure of many signed agreements. The situation between the Polisario and Morocco is not much different. Another main reason is the struggle over power in the Arab Maghreb between Algeria and Morocco. The two countries have been trying to achieve political objectives by pressuring one another. Algeria has been using the Western Sahara conflict and its support of the Polisario to pressure Morocco and extract political objectives, such as the reopening of the borders and having the Moroccan parliament approve the borders agreement that was signed by the two countries. It also wants the citizens of both countries to be able to move freely between the two countries. It wants to get rid of the visa system which has been enforced by Morocco following the terrorist attacks.
أو منع نظام منح التأشيرات لمواطني.
U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice held a new round of talks this morning with the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Rice held talks yesterday in Amman with the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. She also met with the Jordanian monarch King Abdallah II. In addition, Rice held talks in Jerusalem with the Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak and the Palestinian Prime Minister Salam Fayyad.
Rice's visit coincided with the release of a report by the Israeli Peace Now movement. According to the report, there has been an evident increase in the number of Israeli settlement construction posts since the Annapolis conference in late November, in which Israel committed to free settlement activities. The report cited thousands of housing units are being built in the Israeli settlements in the West Bank and around East Jerusalem. According to the report, since the Annapolis conference, tenders for the construction of 750 housing units in East Jerusalem have been published. The report also cited a large increase in the number of mobile homes. Joining us from Jerusalem is our bureau chief, Walid Al-Umari. Walid, are all the facts of this report out to the public?
هو ما خرج به التقرير ومصدره حركة السلام الآن وهي ذات مصداقية.
This report was issued by the Peace Now movement, which is a credible organization in this regard. The Peace Now movement employs a special group in charge of monitoring the construction and expansion of Israeli settlements. This type of news will overshadow and burden the Palestinians, especially the Palestinian leadership and its negotiations with Israel. Despite Rice's attempts to convince the Palestinians that the political process will eventually lead to a solution, the Palestinians believe that these breaking developments regarding the expansion of Israeli settlements will definitely eradicate the two-state solution, or what has become known as the revelation of the U.S. President George W. Bush. According to the Palestinians, the state of affairs imposed on the Palestinian people in light of the ongoing settlement campaign, especially after the Annapolis conference and the roadmap for peace, as well as Israel's failure to freeze its settlement campaign, all these will definitely eradicate the negotiation process and dim the hopes for a solution. We are talking about the expansion of settlements, including the construction of settlement posts in 100 of a total of 160 Israeli settlements in the West Bank, not to forget the ongoing settlement campaign taking place in the heart of Israeli settlements around Jerusalem. The settlements around Jerusalem have been transformed into residential neighborhoods for the settlers, which led to their expansion to Arab neighborhoods. According to the report of the Peace Now movement, a large number of Israeli settlements to the east of the apartheid wall are witnessing continuous increase of settlement activities. When Israel talks about the evacuation or dismantling of settlements, such talks are only rhetoric, nothing more or less.
From Jerusalem, Walid Al-Umari, thank you very much.
Palestinians inside the Green Line of the Palestinian territories marked the 32nd anniversary of Land Day with a massive march, especially in Galilee area, which witnessed the first spark that ignited the launch of Land Day. Ziad Halabi.
This is how the massive march began, which started from the Sakhnin village to the neighboring Arabiya village in the Galilee. To commemorate the anniversary of Land Day, Palestinian flags were raised and shouts were made against the policy of Israeli confiscation of Palestinian lands, which has not stopped for even one day. Thousands of people came out, fearing that the rest of their lands will be lost.
Land Day is a day of remaining on our land and maintaining our roots. We now have a new meaning for this day amidst the fascist and racist attacks against our presence on this land, and amidst the policy of home demolitions and reducing the standards of our villages and cities, thus denying us from living a normal life.
Palestinian cities and villages on both sides of the Green Line witnessed similar marches on this day, which represents a turning point in the collective Palestinian consciousness and their never-ending conflict to remain present. Israel considers the Palestinians to be a demographic bomb, which poses a danger to the Jewishness of the state.
They encourage the spilling of our blood. They incite against us and try to impose on us an atmosphere of fear and terror. Amidst this atmosphere, the Israelis have closed the file on the killers of the demonstrators at Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem, despite the fact that the killers are known.
الشرارة الأولى ليوم الأرض كانت انطلقت عام 76
The first spark that ignited the launch of Land Day occurred in 1967 after the Israeli authorities confiscated more than 20,000 dunams from the lands of the central Galilee village. These authorities tried to forcefully break up a public strike, and 6 Arab citizens were martyred, thus transforming this day into a national day, which embodies the collective identity of the Palestinians. The 32nd anniversary of Land Day comes amidst a raised level of tension between the Palestinians on both sides of the Green Line and Israel, as an occupying nation east of this line and as a discriminatory ethnic state against the Arab minority west of this line. Ziad Halabi, Al-Arabiya, from the Arabiya village in the Galilee.
Released released today in Jerusalem shows that 60% of Americans support Israel, a 10% increase over recent years. The poll carried out by the Israel Project also addresses U.S. voter perceptions about the Middle East, with particular focus on Israel's security problems and the Iranian nuclear threat. IBA's Leah Stern has more.
In the midst of U.S. primary season, which tends to emphasize differences among U.S. voters, the newly released Israel Project poll shows a clear across-the-board increase in U.S. support for Israel, up 10% in recent years.
85% of McCain voters think that America should stand with Israel, and the majority of Clinton voters and Obama voters feel exactly the same way. 58% of Clinton voters say America should stand with Israel. 62% of Obama voters feel America should stand with Israel.
On the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, the current U.S. leadership believes that PA President Mahmoud Abbas is committed to peace. However, the poll shows that most U.S. voters disagree.
61% of American likely voters saying they do not think that that West Bank and led by President Mahmoud Abbas is committed to reaching peace agreement with Israel, and 70% feeling that Hamas is not committed.
U.S. voters support the idea of reoccupying the Gaza Strip in the face of the ongoing Qassam rocket attacks on southern Israeli communities.
The notion that if nothing else works to stop the missile attacks against Israel from Gaza, Israel should use their military to reoccupy Gaza has 60% support amongst American likely voters, meaning that it may be more popular in America than it is in Israel.
The poll shows that it's not only Israelis but Americans as well who are concerned about Iran's plans to develop nuclear weapons and believe the current U.S. policy on Iran is not effective.
I think the findings are very encouraging indeed. I think they show that with the right information, with the right sources, with the right work which is done with the media, there can be a change in public opinion, and I think that's what these findings have shown us.
And this surprising news, a large number of Americans do not even know a single Jew.
44% of Americans overall actually have never met a Jewish person before in their lives. That's absolutely incredible, astonishing actually.
So the attitudes that Americans have about Israel are not because of a big Jewish lobby or Jewish outrage. It's because of what they're seeing in the news and they're reading and learning about in terms of the shared values and Israel's commitment to peace.
Please stay with us. Monday marked the birthday of the Islamic Republic in Iran. Iran went to the polls 29 years ago on such a day in a nationwide referendum to say a strong yes to the Islamic Republic. More than 98% of Iranians voted for the Islamic Republic, less than 2 months after the victory of the Islamic Revolution back in 1979. Iranians were out in force to welcome the creation of the Islamic Republic by its founding father, the late Imam Khomeini. Head of the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Arabiya Ayatollah Zarghami is highlighting the need for closer cooperation among independent media to fight against the monopoly of some certain media. Back home from Russia visit, Zarghami added Iran's capabilities in TV production, including news, documentary, TV series, and animation, will set the stage for the country to play a greater role at the international levels. The IRIB chief also added that Russia is keen on boosting media cooperation with Iran in all sectors, something which, as Zarghami added, could be shared with all nations around the globe. Condemnation of the anti-Islam film posted by a far-right Dutch lawmaker on the internet last week is still going on around the globe. Jordan's premier and 53 cabinet members handed a letter to Dutch ambassador to Jordan calling for cutting all ties with the Netherlands. Russian Mufti Council also condemned the film, saying Western politicians do not have the right to insult religious sanctities in the name of democracy. Dutch Muslims once again staged a rally to vent anger over the insulting film. Malaysia and Singapore also condemned the film as a clear case of abusing the idea of freedom of expression to insult religious beliefs. Meanwhile, dozens of Indonesian demonstrators gathered outside the Dutch embassy to protest against the film, who joined people and organizations in Turkey and Spain which strongly condemned the insulting film.
The city of Islamic Renaissance in Cairo is a place of coexistence and unity for Muslim communities studying moderate Islam at Al-Azhar University. A number of the world's leading politicians, including the president of the Maldives island, Ma'mun Abd Qayyum, and the former president of Indonesia, Abd Rahman Wahid, have graduated from the city of the Ba'uth, or Enlightenment.
مدينة البعوث الإسلامية تقع في قلب القاهرة.
The city of Islamic Ba'uth is located in the heart of Cairo, where a large number of students come to study there. Currently, the city of Ba'uth includes 34 buildings accommodating more than 4,000 students living on its campus. Most of the students living in the city of Islamic Ba'uth are foreign students from more than 100 countries. The students come for one reason, which is to study true Islam away from hate and extremism. They want to learn moderate Islam from beneath the supreme minarets of the noble Al-Azhar, a prestigious institution with roots that go back deep in history. Inside the city of Ba'uth, the Muslim communities rise above their differences and take pride in their unity. Despite their different nationalities and languages, the students are bound together as they are all equal under the umbrella of Islamic Sharia law.
بها أكثر من 104 جنسية على مستوى العالم.
Al-Azhar includes students representing more than 140 countries. We call our students of Al-Azhar the advocates of the Muslim world. They come to Al-Azhar to study moderate Islam. Then they go back to their countries and preach the same message they have learned here.
As you wander around in the city of Islamic Ba'uth, you come across students from Africa, Asia, and Europe. Here, the students live in harmony, the type of harmony you rarely see in other parts of the world.
The students come from all over the world. We study and live together and consult with one another. We exchange knowledge and learn about each other's culture.
I could gladly say that this place is like a little United Nations, because many of the students who come to study and live here come from all over the world.
المدينة تتوفر فيها كافة الخدمات والرعاية.
The city of Islamic Ba'uth provides the students with many services, including healthcare. It also includes a gym, a health center, and centers for teaching Quran and languages, including Arabic, French, and English. The Egyptian government is paying for the lodging expenses of those students living on campus of the noble Al-Azhar. A number of leading scholars and politicians have graduated from the city of Islamic Ba'uth.
Many government ministers from Malaysia have graduated from Al-Azhar. The Grand Mufti of Brunei graduated from Al-Azhar University. In addition, the Grand Mufti of the Republic of Lebanon, Dr. Mohammed Rashid Kabani, attended the College of Religious Fundamental in Al-Azhar, where he obtained his master and doctorate degrees. Also, the Grand Mufti of Mount Lebanon, Sheikh Guzo, graduated from the College of Religious Sciences at Al-Azhar University.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.